Every time I listen to Till I Collapse by Eminem, it ends up making me feel fired up and just ready to get going. It makes me want to work harder, push more on my next bench press, or simply just get a little bit more work done in any given day. The same way, a song like Don't Know What to Do by Blackpink often will just make me feel a bit more happier and a bit more energized. For some people, you might feel like shows like Big Bang Theory give you this sense of connection with a character as if you're a part of the group of friends, or you feel the dread in the moments the doors are locked behind Rob at the Red Wedding. Games, though, sit in this weird middle ground. Some people don't like to think that this is a proper art form, and others do. I used to sit more on the side of not thinking it was an art form, and it was mainly just filled with a load of massive companies controlling everything that was going on and giving us everything that is the modern day factory work of developers. But then you play games like Red Dead 2 that make you connect so much to characters that by the time you come to the end of the game, you end up quite possibly even shedding a tear or two. And then when you play games like Doom and you're ending up slaughtering demons and listening to the extremely outstanding soundtrack, you completely feel like a badass. All of this is provoking emotion, but sadly I feel as if over the last few years we've walked away from how a game might make you feel to now getting lost in the source of the technicalities such as the graphics, the movement, sound design, and even the way that light hits an object. Today, I want us to talk about this idea of gaming being an art form and art deriving an emotion, not technicality. This video came to me after watching a Razbutton video where he recently talked about how he wished he had never replayed games like Bioshock Infinite, Assassin's Creed 2, and Zelda Majora's Mask. His main topic was about how he realised that a lot of the way that he felt around these games was purely based around nostalgia, and how he was blinded to how he felt about these games. He also talks about how some of this comes from this idea that your brain in a way is smoothing out the rough edges of everything without you knowing, which is definitely a valid thing to be discussing. However, one part that I felt might seem to be a factor within this entire thing is how we are very hypercritical about everything now, and especially games. As well as that, as a culture, we might have become more critical, who knows. However, one thing that I can definitely say has had a big factor in this is the rise of YouTube and social media, and it basically making us way more hypercritical of almost everything around us. And when it comes to games, in particular, YouTube has made it such a hypercritical thing that in my mind, I kind of feel like at times we get a little bit lost. He briefly talks about this idea of growing up and being a bit more cynical. However, I wouldn't say it's completely down to cynicism, but instead I think it's because we've become so caught up in everything being perfected, and anything that falls short of it should be ridiculed. We started to move away from games being made to create a feeling, from its story, the world, the sound design, the graphics, the lore, the movement, and much more, to now caring about how all of those things rank up against to create a score that we can tell other people that our game is the better one and if it's good or not. So instead of all of those things coming together to create a feeling of something, we now value them so highly that they can make us instantly think that the game is bad and make our experiences go away of enjoyment even if we were actually enjoying it in the first place. I think one quick easy way of answering this question is, for example, a lot of people will like certain games out there and then they'll go watch their favorite creator talk about it, and they might feel a little bit like disheartened when their favorite creator is ripping into it a little bit, but then after that they instantly go from, oh yes, I was really enjoying this game, to, oh no, this game's absolute trash. I think that's the easiest way of just kind of explaining it for everyone here. For us to delve a little bit deeper into this topic, we have to ask this one specific question: are games art? Like I said, I used to sit on the side of no, as I kind of felt that they aren't really art, as it feels like most games coming out are just shells of passion that are hollowed out and just trying to be good on a surface level for a load of revenue. However, recently I've started to change this stance. I came to this realization that I was becoming hypercritical of other games and other people and what they might perceive as their favorite game, and even look down upon certain people who have that opinion, which eventually led me to making a video talking about the elitist culture within games, and now has led me to what I knew to be true this entire time, but I never found a way to say it properly, which was gaming is art, as art is made by someone with a creative talent or a moment of creativity that is to invoke some kind of emotion. If we're allowed to call a movie a work of art because of its acting, the camera angles, and the storytelling, then that should also allow us to call a game a work of art for all of those exact same reasons. If we're able to call musicians artists for creating and piecing together a song, feel a certain emotion, then we should also be able to say the same thing about games, as we're able to feel that level of connection to the characters and the worlds that they are within. Art itself is just a form of artistic expression, which typically evokes an emotion from others or the person creating the art in the first place. However, nowadays, from gaming to music to content creators to TV or even films to books and art, all of them get hit with the brush of everyone's opinions that are made out to be an expert opinion. Now, I'm not an advocate of the idea, for example, that you can't critique a pro boxer or a musician's work or a game if you haven't stepped in the ring, played an instrument, or designed a game. But I do think we give way too much value on the thoughts of others around us as if they are technical experts. For myself, I started to walk away from reading comments on videos because I'd end up letting other people's thoughts ruin my day because some person who I've never met in my life decided they're going to critique my content even though they've never tried to make anything ever besides whatever they're saying behind their keyboard. In a comment section that ends up getting way too much credit. I would end up letting it get to me, though it doesn't actually matter, and I think this is an issue that many people on the creative end face from supposed critics within the space. But the part that I think bleeds into everyone is that people have opinions that just aren't deeply thought out. Two sentences come to mind. If you have an opinion about everything, then you have an opinion about nothing. And the other is strong opinions loosely held. Both of those are what I think plagues all of us today, but also bleeds into everything that we enjoy. We end up being told how we should feel about every single game, film, or artist. We end up being made to feel as if we need an opinion about everything, even if that opinion is wrong, but because it's our opinion, we have a natural desire to defend it. If someone says that they love a particular game, they'll end up having another person tell them how they're wrong, how their game is awful, and so on. It's this idea as if you have to defend whatever your favorite game is because their favorite game is an attack on your favorite game, even though it's not beneficial for anyone for this conversation to be happening. There's a difference between having an opposing view and being lost in needing to have the perfect champion to fight why you are right and others are wrong. We then evaluate how a game is perfect based on everything outside of how the game actually made you feel. Which is kind of amusing at times, considering the only reason why most people defend a lot of games is because of the way it made them feel in a certain way. But the reason why people end up defaulting to this argument of basically saying about how the game's graphically better, it runs smoother and all this thing is because those are kind of the only tangible arguments that can be used towards a game. You can't really measure on a wide pool of people necessarily how a game made someone feel, because that is completely just down to personal experience. For me, in an ideal world, I would say that we need to walk away from talking about how we're right, you're wrong, same way that I will criticize Assassin's Creed Valhalla at length and have opinions of if you think the game is your favorite game. Overall, if the game made you feel like you had a great time, then that's great. I don't think that we should be criticizing everyone from the games they love to the music they love. It's all about how it affects you. After everything about how it affects you, all of it is just a bonus added on. If you guys enjoy long form content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel as there's plenty more to come. And as well as that, if you want to support any further, you can always head over to my Patreon. It costs the same amount as a cup of coffee out, so that's all I'll leave you with when it comes to that. You also get access to videos like this earlier than others, and on top of that, you also end up gaining access to having more of a say in terms of what comes up on the channel and private Q&As and so on. So if you are interested, go check those out. They'll be down in the description. Anyway, let's continue on. This video in particular is more about talking about how games make you feel more than anything and wanting to defend what we love. If you love a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you'll have some people like me who find the game complete trash and will basically just end up saying that your taste in games, it completely sucks. Well, I don't say exactly that, but you get what I mean. People online will definitely tell you whatever game it is that is your favourite is bad because of X reason. I even found out a couple months ago that The Witcher 3 is a bad game and is overhyped. which is bewildering to me. It's not in my top 3 games, but it's arguably better than the majority of people's top 3 games, and for me, my top 3 rely on Skyrim, Assassin's Creed 2, and Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, I could argue the case that The Witcher 3 across the board is better than all 3 games, so it's kind of like hard to just turn around and say that the game is overhyped. So yeah, if you're watching this and you're questioning where I'm getting this from, just go check out the comments on my Open Worlds Are Boring video. It's insane to hear some people's takes about some of the games. And what I mean by this though is that if we actually looked at games from the perspective of how people enjoy the overall experience, instead of the nitty-gritty technicals that I mentioned earlier that everyone seems to value nowadays, it's like, oh, if the game doesn't run at 60 FPS then it's complete trash. It's like, no, most people are fine with 30 FPS. It's very rare. I've got a PC, for example, with a 2070 graphics card, an i7-8700, and I can play a lot of games in ultra quality. Do I get them all at 60 FPS? No, 60 FPS isn't that important, and I just think that everyone cares way too much about the technical aspects instead of how the game might make you feel. You could have a game that makes you feel amazing, but because it's not 60 FPS, the graphics aren't as up to date as they should be, according to people. The gameplay's a little bit buggy or a little bit, clunky, then because of that, your entire way of feeling about the game is completely invalid, your taste in games is trash, and you shouldn't even have an opinion. It's the most, ridiculous method of just thought processes, in my opinion. All 3 of my favourite games have come to me because of different moments in my life, but each have made me feel a different way over time. From me falling in love with the characters at a time I never thought I would in a game like Red Dead, or bringing me back to how I felt when I was 9 and I played through AC2 for the first time. With Skyrim, it's a game that makes me feel comfortable. It's the most comfortable game anyway for me, and I've spoken about this in my recent video about Skyrim. If you want to check that out, you can. And how I just love going around the game and playing through every single time. Games are meant to invoke a form of emotion. This is why games like Call of Duty get a lot of bad press. They're games that are designed to be addictive and not necessarily too emotional. So even when they get their teeth truly sunk into you, you end up just feeling underwhelmed. Whereas if you play a game like Red Dead from start to finish, like I did last year, it made me feel incredibly emotionally invested into the story that was taking place. I cared for the characters and wanted to know what was going on at every single next point. I wanted to play the story so much that I ended up skipping so much side content because I was so emotionally invested in what was going on. Games like Assassin's Creed 2 and Skyrim have massive flaws, from the bugs that you get within Skyrim, through to how AC2 didn't age particularly well due to its movement, parkour, color grading, especially once you compare it to these games that are coming out nowadays, the heavy hitters like The Witcher 3, God of War, Arkham City, and The Last of Us. All of those games are technically better, and for many people, including me, have made me feel emotions towards them, like I experienced with something like Assassin's Creed 2 or Skyrim. But that doesn't mean any of them were able to completely overpower someone's love for a game due to the time that it entered their life or just the way it might have made them feel. A game that I think is a perfect combination of art, technical prowess, and ability to invoke emotion is Red Dead 2. I've made a whole video essay about this game that's 3.5 hours long, so I'm not going to jump incredibly into detail with it. If you want to go into my detail of this, go watch that video. I go very much more into detail than I will ever do in probably any other video ever. But yeah, go check that one out. But all round, this game wins in pretty much every department. Some don't think so though. But even if you just look at the insane level of detail within the game, the way the story is structured, to the way that you feel a genuine connection with the characters, a character has a flaw. He isn't necessarily a hero, he isn't necessarily a villain. The way the game looks visually is also astonishing. So games can be great at everything, but just because RDR2 has been able to do it doesn't change the fact that for me, I think that Skyrim is still my favourite game of all time just due to the emotional impact it had on me. I love RDR2 and I think the story, the gameplay, the graphics are miles better than Skyrim, but it wasn't able to impact me in the same way emotionally as I felt when I played Skyrim for the first time, and I'm willing to admit, like I did within my Skyrim video essay, that all of this is blinded by nostalgia. Every game or every single piece of art is made to make you feel emotionally invested in some way. Music artists are able to build up fan bases around particular issues in life and the way they feel, from people like NF being able to build his audience by being relatable about his depression, to Taylor Swift and her ability to tell stories of whatever breakup is being discussed in the prior albums. Games are art because they invoke emotion from us and require creative talent to get them here. Yes, some games are complete cash grabs and nothing more, but that shouldn't taint the idea of the whole industry and the way that some great devs and companies work on bringing things to customers. The reason this video exists isn't to explain to you about how games are art and how art is subjective and all of that. It is just to talk about this issue that I personally see within the industry overall when it comes to content creators. I'm even one of them, I won't deny it. Like, I've made my opinions on certain games, I'll make reviews about certain games, I've got video essays in the works right now for later on this year, all that sort of thing, where I'll be talking more about the technicalities of it. I think it's fine to talk about the technicalities, however, so many people just overlook how a game makes you feel, and they become extreme armchair, armchair experts. This whole idea of I know how the story was perfectly crafted, and oh no, this was the weakest point of this bit here, it didn't follow the exact thing of what I wanted, and the gameplay, I just was a little bit off because of, they end up taking in every small little gripe that they have about something, and it could even be a big gripe, it could be an understandable one. I think a good example recently is Jedi Survivor. Yes, it's got technical issues, and I 100% agree with that, however, I'm sorry, but the game overall is a good game, and I would go as far as to say a genuinely great game, especially for what we've had recently. All round, a lot of people will really enjoy it, will feel emotionally invested in it, because it is genuinely great fun, and it feels like an actual Star Wars game. But so many people will write it off now, purely because, oh, there's frame drops every now and again. Yes, there's frame drops, I'm not going to deny that, I even mentioned it in my video, but I still think it's a worthwhile game to play, even with the frame drops. Overall, with that point, it's more along the lines of just enjoy the games you want to enjoy. Stop thinking that everyone else's opinion is so valid above yours, just because you're just a person who watches videos online and your favorite content creator has got 500,000 subscribers, gives their take on games. Yeah, they have some fairly valid concerns, very valid opinions about different things, but don't take it all as gospel. Try and enjoy your game. You don't need to be hypercritical of everything in the world, you can just enjoy things. One area though that I will just briefly talk about is nostalgia, as this is a big one. Many people will throw this word around as if it's a bad thing, when in reality, it just isn't. Just because I'm nostalgic for things like the Ezio collection and Skyrim doesn't make my love for either of those properties any less real, genuine, or even understandable. We don't need to live in a world where we just end up having to feel as if we're right all the time. Therefore, my favourite game is this because it will dominate over every single game out there by miles and everything that came out before it. This just isn't what we should be focusing on. Whatever the next game is that you want to play, don't get so lost in the technicals. Try and just play the game and enjoy the actual game. Don't think so hard into why does the grass not look correct. It's just ridiculous. Take in what has been built and just explore it, and then base a lot of your thoughts on how the game makes you feel instead of how it technically is superior than another. Yes, graphics, FPS, bugs, audio, and gameplay are important features of pretty much every game out there, but they are only important to us as we've become older, and we became way more cynical and critical of literally everything. Focus on how a game makes you feel, not necessarily what your favourite creator might say is its biggest flaw. Now to that last point, I do think that growing up is a massive aspect to this that many people want to just hide away from. They try to make it out as if growing up is this amazing thing of oh well no, it's we grew up and we just, it's just because we thought clearly. No, it's just that you end up losing a lot of your imagination, to be honest, a lot of the time. Think back on many of the games that you love. You probably had a massive imagination at the time and you cared so much about these games because fundamentally you weren't thinking about how the graphics need to be amazing or how this needs to be brilliant. It wasn't all about that. I think we get lost in what is the technicals nowadays way too much. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was a interesting one for me to write. The script obviously didn't take too long to do as I kind of wrote it after watching Raz Button's video, so shout out to him. Great videos, great content creator all round. Honestly, I just feel as if from time to time we kind of get lost in this idea of needing to just think as if, oh well, the bugs. The game has like 5 big bugs and it's ruined 1% of players' playthrough, therefore the game sucks. Like, I don't know, to me it's just a bit annoying at times, I guess. I just kind of find it irritating, so I thought I'd make a video. Let me know what your thoughts are. Obviously, I know that there's going to be a lot of people out there who basically turn around and say, oh, well, it's because the technicals have to matter because I'm paying this amount of money. Yeah, you can pay the amount of money you want for a game, that's fine. But literally, just think about it as well that the game, if you actually enjoy it, you don't have to then take on the opinion of your favorite content creator who then hates it. Like, don't do that. Just try and enjoy a game. Have your own opinions about things if you want them. If you don't want to give a massive opinion, you don't have to. It's simple as that. You don't have to give your opinion on literally everything. Because like I said earlier, if you have an opinion about everything, you have an opinion on nothing. Or at least not a valid opinion on anything. So yeah, anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video essay. The next ones coming up are going to be my GTA 5 video, which will be more similar to my Red Dead video, so expect me to dive a little bit deeper into things like the story, the gameplay, how it was when it was in production, all these different things. So like going a bit more into the details and the technicals like I'm complaining against in this video, but we'll forget that for now. Then, as well as that, you'll also be seeing my In Defense of Assassin's Creed Origins. I know that some people have actually been asking recently about that, so yeah, that is in the works. It is going to be coming out, hopefully at the end of this month, or at the beginning of next month. So yes, stay tuned for that. If you want to see them early, though, make sure to go subscribe to the Patreon. Like I said, £5 or £4.50, I think, a month. Basically $5 a month if you're interested. Then you can just join every single month and get that content earlier. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.